First, let's deal with these so-called semantic issues about testing and checking. In the previous course, we already mentioned that there was a debate between tests and checks. Some proponents say that it's all semantics, it doesn't matter, test, check, it's all the same. However, some other people, like the context-driven people, say that, well, there is difference between test and check. You cannot call it semantics because we use words to explain different things and different concepts. So if we use different words, well, maybe they don't mean the same. So one of the questions that were raised in debate about testing and checking was the one about manual and automated testing. So the question was raised, have you ever heard about manual programming and automated programming? Well, it's not really the case. I guess there were some academic attempts to automate generation of the code, but it's still not automated programming. Therefore, why are we still talking about manual and automated testing? Does it make sense? Well, not really. We cannot automate test, we can automate checks. Let's take a look at the definitions as provided by Bolton and Back and to see how they relate to each other. So they say that basically testing is the process of evaluating a product by learning about it through exploration and experimentation, which includes to some degree questioning, study, modeling, observation, inference, etc. Therefore, a test is an instance of testing. So how do they define checking? They say that checking is the process of making evaluation by applying algorithmic decision rules to specific observations of a product. Therefore, a check is an instance of checking. From these two definitions, we can clearly distinguish that one of these two can be automated and the other one not. Guess which one is it? Of course, checks. Checks can be automated while tests cannot be automating because the evaluation by learning through exploration and experimentation is not something that can be done by a machine. A part of that supporting process for the testing can be done by a machine and should be done in a machine where the opportunity is there. Therefore, we like to talk about automation in testing, not test automation. You can take a look at the satisfied.com blog for more information. In this diagram, where the testing is defined as a combination of human and machine checking in combination of learning through experimenting, means that the whole process of testing includes both testing and checking. You remember when we said that each testing is scripted to some degree and exploratory to some degree? Well, this is more or less it. If we want to take a look at the scripts, we might as well call them checks instead of tests. If we want to talk about tests, we will call it exploration. Therefore, the whole effort of testing is a perfect combination of both things. Because testing is so complex that we need the support of tools, we need the support of checks and exploration in order to provide it as good as possible. We already mentioned the automation pyramid. We already mentioned some videos in which Richard Brochel talks about the automation pyramid patterns and anti-patterns and how it started. So I'm not going to lose much more time on this part. I will just say that it can be useful to understand, or as a starting point for a project, it can be useful to understand what are we missing in a testing, and we will see it a bit later. But nowadays, there are certain contexts in which we have to perform an anti-pattern. For example, angular checking, where the presentation layer is quite rich in functionality. Another often raised question is who should do the automation? There are certain schools and certain ideas in testing that propose that developers should not test their own code. Well, James Whittaker said in one seminar that it's a funny question and it's a funny definition, and there are many testers out there who think like that. Why would not a developer be able to test his own code? Oh, because we need external point of view. Well, we also need some knowledge of the code. And who knows his code the best? Well, the developer who wrote it. I believe that developers are quite able to test their own code. if they're sincere and good enough and trained enough. Why not? So, if we want to pretend to use tools to help us test, then testers also must code. That is another question. Testers should code or not? Well, if we want to use tools, then the answer is yes, testers should code. I think, although it is not mandatory that all testers should learn how to program, I think that we as testers should be enough technology aware and have enough programming skills to be able to move around on our own with some help from the developers. So, if we take the combination of the two, of the developers and the testers, we can see that good testers will try to learn good coding practices from developers, and good developers will try to learn good testing practices from testers. So it's a perfect combination of the two when we talk about the automation. Therefore, any member of the team can do the automation. What's important for the good automation? The test design. Another often raised question is, what should be automated? Alan Page, one of the most prominent names in the testing and automation in testing, says that 100% of the tests that need to be automated should be automated. Well, that's a quite funny definition and always brings some laughter in the class. But it's true. We have to decide what needs to be automated and then automate 100% of that. There are a few tips and few tricks we can use. For example, if you're doing something that's very repetitive, well then just automate it if you're going to do the same thing all over for many times. If you're going to do something that's practically impossible for humans to do, for example complex calculation with large data sampling, or for example processes that are very long in time, then just automate it, because humans get really tired and machines don't. If you're going to perform some boring tasks that are required for testing, well then it would be a good idea to automate it. Don't let testers get bored too much. Automate that part and let them invest time in better stuff. So as we can see, there is a lot more automation to do apart from the classical let's imitate the user action in the graphical user interface. Richard Broshow therefore talks about the automation opportunities. He brings this concept that there are so many opportunities for automation in the testing process, and these opportunities should be taken. Any usage of the tools that support our testing in any way is automation in testing. It's not only Selenium or some other tools. We can use the tools to generate test data, to create test combination, to set up the environments, or to automate the graphical user interface checks. There are so many opportunities. Do not let the false idea about automation stray you apart from taking these opportunities.